Am I the a-hole for helping my ex's son financially but refusing to help my ex? I, 45 male, and my ex, Emmy, 46 female, got together 3 years ago and broke up last year. My son Leo is 17 and Emmy's son Nate is 16. Emmy and her son moved in my house in June 2021. Her and I were supposed to have split custody, 1 week each. At the end of September, Nate told us that his father wasn't always here, that he was often alone, and asked us if he could stay at my house. Me and Emmy said yes. I realized quickly that Emmy wasn't taking care of Nate when it wasn't her week. For her, it wasn't her responsibility. This was one of the main reasons for the breakup. When Nate was here, I was the one taking care of him. Emmy and I broke up in February 2022 and she left my house in April. I was worried about Nate, so I proposed to Nate's father to help him take care of him. Long story short, he said yes. And now during Nate's father's week, I have him and Leo at my house. Nate still has his room and everything is the same as before. Me and Leo's mom have more money than my ex, so I give the same amount of money to Leo and Nate when they go out so he won't feel left out, and I buy things for him when needed. Emmy never said anything about this arrangement. The summer, like the ones before, Leo and Nate went to spend a few weeks at my parents'. We also took Nate with us when we went abroad, and I paid for everything. In September, everything resumed the same. I have Leo and Nate together during 1 week, and I take care of everything. My ex-wife, Leo's mom, is also helping during her time. He has sleepover at her place and she and her husband often sees games. Now the issue is, last week, Leo told me that Nate's sport gear was too deteriorated for him to use. I asked Nate, and he told me that he was too ashamed to tell me, and he was trying to save money to replace it. So this weekend, we went to buy everything he needed. I admit that I felt bad for not realizing it sooner, so I went a little overboard, and I bought him a more expensive equipment. I want to add, it's not unusual for me to buy things for Nate. On Monday, Emmy called me to complain about the new gear and told me that she needed money too. And she felt it was unfair of me to give/buy stuff for her son and not helping her when I had the money. She has a job, but she was complaining about not being able to have new/expensive stuff. Yesterday, I had dinner with friends and told them everything. 2 of them told me that they thought it was a little selfish of me to not help someone in need when I had more than enough money to do so. I admit that I'm well off financially, but I worked very hard to be where I am today, and I do not want her to benefit from that. They also raised the fact that my ex-wife and me were planning ahead to help Nate through college, that it was a big commitment, and it was horrible of me to choose who to help from my past. Is it really awful of me to refuse to help her when I have the money? I feel that I don't owe her anything. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You do not owe anyone anything. Emmy's an adult and should be focused on providing for her son and taking care of herself. I think it is amazing what you are doing to help Nate, and that really shows what a wonderful person you are. To me, it sounds like Emmy's jealous and wants to live a more luxurious lifestyle on your dime. 100% this. What about an entitled mother? Yes, she wouldn't take care of her son when it wasn't her week, even though he lived with her full time. Now she risks her son's situation with Opie because she's jealous he has new stuff and she doesn't. She's simply a bad mother, and Opie should ignore her concerns. Not the a-hole. Why should you help her buy expensive things when you're already helping her by supporting her son? The idea is preposterous. You're already helping her by supporting her son. The fact that everyone telling Opie to give her money is ignoring this is insane to me. Also, Nate is a child. And this adult woman is like, be my daddy too? Opie's friends also ignore that he and Emmy were only together for 2 years. Of course, not the a-hole for choosing who to help from his past. I suspect the friends are just trying to hedge their bets to request money from him in the future too. And if those friends are seriously arguing that they pay for their ex-partners to have necessary items, let alone extras, they're full of it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my kid's sister call me dad? I have split custody for my 2 sons Diego, 12, and Sasha, 10, with my ex Josie. About a year after we split up, Josie got pregnant with Eva from a one-night stand. That guy never stepped up. He's pretty broke, so doesn't pay child support and would just stop by every now and then when Eva was young, but hasn't been seen since she was 4 or 5. I'm pretty good friends with Josie and will invite her and all 3 kids over sometimes when I have cookouts and stuff like that. Through the years, I've watched Eva for Josie as a favor here and there. They go to the same school, so sometimes I'll pick all 3 of them up and drop them off at Josie's on her weeks when she's busy but I have some time. I don't play a fatherly role though and don't really want to. But the other day when I picked them up from school, Josie asked me if I want to stay for dinner. We had a nice meal and hung around a while. Then when I go to leave, Diego and Sasha hug me goodbye and say, "Bye, Dad." Eva also gave me a hug and called me that as well. I figured it was a mix-up and go, "What was that, Eva?" She goes, "Oh, sorry. Mean to ask if I could call you that now." I told her I'd rather her call me by my name. I'm not comfortable with that, and I don't want that responsibility on me. She seemed sad, and I thought that was that. But since then, Josie told me I'm being a real jerk. Saying it's not like she's asking for child support for her, but I should still let her call me that and be flattered. I don't really like it though, and I'm afraid of future expectations if she gets used to it. Am I the a-hole for that? I want to be clear that the only part I said was, "I'd rather you just call me by my name." The "I'm not comfortable with that, I don't want that responsibility on me" was me explaining myself here. I didn't say that out loud to her. I don't personally want to be uncle or some nickname. I feel most comfortable going by my name. I have siblings with kids who call me Theo, and I like that just being their thing. That's not your child. You're doing enough to include her with your kids periodically. Letting her call you dad sets her up for heartache down the road. It was good to set that boundary now. Josie also needs to talk to her. Get her some therapy to deal with an absent father. You are in no way responsible for filling that void. Not the a-hole. Yeah, it's a boundary I don't think I'd want to relent. I pride myself on how hard I work for my kids. Been working on college funds for both of them to be the first ones in our family to go to a university. And I feel like if I set that dad expectation, I'll have to share with Eva. And I know it may sound greedy, but I want all my hard work to go towards my kids. Eva's a nice kid, but it just isn't like that for me. Exactly. You can't expect your ex to pick up the slack because she chose a loser the next time around. You're doing fine. This issue lies with Josie. Not the a-hole. You're setting a boundary now so she doesn't even get more hurt. Also, Josie's at fault here. Her daughter's lonely. It's gotta be tough seeing your siblings with their dad while your biological father didn't stick around. This does affect kids. They feel unwanted. However, it's not your place to fill that void. Sometimes you can get to that point and love a child like they are your own. However, it doesn't always happen. You know what you're capable of. Lesson for adults? Your decisions affect your kids. This poor little girl is now suffering, but it's not your place to fix it. Not the a-hole. I feel sorry for Eva, but this isn't your responsibility and it's good you're drawing a line in the sand. Josie probably doesn't want to have a difficult conversation with her daughter. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my son's college tuition? I, 39 male, had a one-night stand in college and a girl who we'll call Jade got pregnant. I agreed to pay child support, but that was all. This arrangement has worked for 18 years. I never liked the idea of having kids anyway, so I don't really mind that my son, Marty, 18 male, and I have no contact. Jade never got a boyfriend or anything after she had Marty, so she's been doing a pretty good job all by herself. We're still friends to this day, and I've only spoken to Marty a few times. Marty, having recently graduated high school, wants to get into college. His tuition is expensive though, and as a single parent, Jade can't afford it and won't fund his tuition because of that. Marty got my number from Jade and asked if I would help pay for his tuition. He made a point saying that I have a well-paying job. He was my only son and I'd never been there for him as a dad, so I should at least pay his tuition. I refused, because first off, I paid Jade child support and extra money on the side for his entire life. And second, I never wanted kids to begin with. Child support was the condition I took to not have to directly care for one. He said that it was selfish of me to pretend like I don't have an obligation to him. And I told him I did have an obligation, which was to pay for him until he was an adult. He protested, saying that I never gave him anything, which just isn't true. I made sure Jade had the money to care for him and gave him gifts through Jade on occasion. Jade and I have been content with this arrangement for years, and she does a great job being a parent. I funded a whole lot of my son's life. I basically paid for everything Jade couldn't, like extracurriculars and sometimes even bills and groceries if she was in a bad spot. Jade agrees that Marty is being unreasonable in this demand, and she's thankful that I was there to support them both. She told Marty he had other options and it would hurt my finances too. His tuition is tens of thousands of dollars. I get paid more than average, but not enough to afford that. He's angry at Jade for taking my side, saying that I'm an unsupportive bum, and that I've done nothing for him in the long run. But that's just not true. Am I the a-hole? Not stay home for not paying tuition. It sounds like you have fulfilled the obligation set by you and Jade. But don't pretend that you don't deserve to be called an unsupportive bum by your son. It absolutely sounds like the truth given what you've written. You gave Jade a monetary support, not your kid. Yes, it was used for your son's needs, but since kids aren't supposed to be involved in the money issue between parents, you're going to have to tell me what you've done for your son that he could consider direct support from you. Seems like you did the absolute bare minimum, but nothing more. I'm not sure you deserve the credit you want for the role you played. You did more than 99% of parents who give up children for adoption and nobody gives them grief. He isn't looking to be called Dad of the Year, but he did more than the bare minimum without messing with the kids' emotions and flip-flopping their relationship his entire life. Not stay whole. He stated that he did not want kids. She chose to keep the pregnancy. He fulfilled his legal obligations towards Marty while he was growing up. He is not the a-hole. I'm sure this won't be a favorable comment, but paying and staying at a distance is much better than randomly appearing and disappearing from Marty's life. My boyfriend's sperm donor basically did something similar, although he signed his parental rights away to my boyfriend's dad so he could adopt him. He stayed the heck out of his life and allowed my boyfriend's parents to raise him, which they did great in my opinion. It's so much better than having a parent that obviously wants nothing to do with you. If Opie were a woman, he would probably have interrupted the pregnancy or put the baby up for adoption because he didn't want to have children. But that's not a choice he can make, so he paid for support until his son entered adulthood. Does it suck for the son to know that the father didn't want him? Yep. But the father didn't want to be a father either. The son is not asking his father to be part of his life, but to help with more money. If Opie can and want to pay, excellent. But if not, I don't think Opie has to. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister after her father kicked her out? For context, my sister 23 female and I 20 female share the same mother, who had passed away long ago, and we have different fathers. We have always been very close and we would talk at least 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes more. I moved away from my family and I now live with my boyfriend one state over. I pay bills and I work 35 to 40 hours a week. My sister has 3 young children. I have no children, so it's just my boyfriend and I. But she too earns her own money. Our relationship has become very distant, and I notice her never responding to my messages or anything. Not even to tell me she's busy or can't talk. She reads my messages but never responds to me, which is very hurtful since we have always been very close. I know everybody has their own lives and she's a busy person, but she only ever does talk to me when she needs money. She asks me at least once per week for money. It's always a different reason for it as well. Depending on her reasoning, which I sometimes don't know is even true, I do send her money. I have gotten my money back 1 time. She always swears to pay me back. Last week, she paid me my $30 back she needed, then 2 days later asked me for $20 more, to which I responded I did not have it. I work hard for my money, but I also don't have a very high-paying job. At 7 in the morning, she called me, to which I could not answer because my boyfriend is asleep and I'm respectful, so I sent her a message instead. She said her father kicked her out, and I asked her why and what happened, and she stated that he is an a-hole and asked me to give her money for a motel or something. I don't even get paid until later today, but I do have some money in savings that is meant strictly for bills. She swears to pay me back later, but I don't really trust that I will get that money back. So I told her I don't have the money, and of course she disappeared once again. I always try to help my family members as much as I can, but I feel as if she is taking advantage of my kindness regardless of being my sister. So am I the a-hole for not helping my sister after she got kicked out? Not the a-hole. Your sister is using you. This, not the a-hole. There's a funny little phenomenon I've noticed, and is that "but we're family" is used to try and explain away all kinds of crazy BS behavior. You're not automatically entitled to give or receive anyone's money simply because you're related. Opie, you've already figured out that your sister is a mooch, and any cash you give her will likely never be seen again. You've helped her financially repeatedly. It now sounds like a perfectly reasonable time to stop. If you want to give her money, and it's clearly a gift, not a loan, that's your choice. But you don't have to if you don't have the extra funds or flat out just don't want to. She needs to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. And there are a million ways for you to support her without giving her a million of your hard-earned dollars. You also wouldn't be out of line to just go no contact and cut her off completely. Just out of curiosity, is there any chance sister has a problem with drugs/alcohol? Not the whole. Some key points. 1. She has 3 young children at 23. Who is taking care of them? I usually understand when people want to be parents, but you can't be a responsible parent without financial stability, among other things. I'm concerned about the children's well-being at this point. 2. Dad probably kicked her out because she is constantly asking him for money or not trying to leave. He probably doesn't want to take care of young kids. 3. Your sister is using you. Since you don't have kids, she probably thinks she can always get money from you. Whatever the reason the dad kicked her out, she needs to work on that. That issue is between them. If she's like one of our cousins, sister is probably pulling the vanishing act on kids, not taking care of them when her dad needs her to, not responding to calls, etc. Our cousin has tried to get custody of the grandkids, but she won't sign the papers. Not the whole. Just an observation based on what you shared, it sounds like she may have some addiction issues. I was thinking the same thing. And I'm very worried, so I'm going to plan a date to go up there and figure out the reality of the situation. Just make sure you mentally protect yourself. Trying to talk to an addict about their behavior, even respectfully, rarely ends peacefully.